So here's our goal in Module 9, real quickly. So we're going to, and it all depends on how many modules you have, but we're going to start collecting them, hitting them, deactivating them, and keeping score. So you can have different obstacles in your way that you have to get through to get to these, and maybe even eventually take some damage as you're doing it. But first things first, and as I mentioned, because this is a short week, because of Thanksgiving, this is all we're going to do this time, but it's still plenty to do. So you should have your prefabs, of course, already created. And these are simply made, if you want to add to them, just right-clicking and duplicating, and then pulling it out from the one you just created. Now, one thing we need to do, let's go to our original prefab, which is down here, and you can also go to it from your assets. Down here, prefabs. So this is our original prefab, and any change we make to this will also affect every one of the other ones we made. That's where we made it a prefab. We changed this, and all the rest of them change. So I don't think we did this last time. So you're going to put a rigid body on the original prefab. So put it on the original one, so all the other ones you have created or will create will have the rigid body. Now we're going to make a change to this one. Let's just take a look at it. If we put a regular rigid body on it and then play it, yeah, they're going to fall, right? Now you should stop to yourself and think why that is. So let's make sure we're learning as we're doing this, understanding the different effects and different types of colliders and the different results. And of course the reason is because our colliders are using is-trigger. So is-trigger means when they collide with another object, they're going through it. They're not going to collide with it. If we were using on collider inner without this trigger selected, they would hit the ground. But because we're using is-trigger and on trigger inner, we have to make some changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our rigid body and we're going to click is kinematic. I mean, we could try to make some changes in the drag and stuff like that, but this is the easiest, most effective way of doing it. So now we're going to use is kinematic, which means it still has physics capabilities and physics interaction with the virtual world, but we can control how that interaction happens, and we sort of break the physical world by making our own physics in this particular one. So make sure when you add that rigid body to the original prefab, you go ahead and check his kinematic. Now let's go back and play it. And we're spinning and we're good. And also, just so we remember these clear, our prefabs, once you click on this, when you want to go back, you just click to the arrow here, right here, and go back. Okay, so now we need to start keeping score. So it's not going to be too difficult, but we're going to click here on the plus, and you're going to go to UI and Text Mesh Pro. When you do that, you're going to get, I already have it, so I don't need to add it, and I'm going to delete this one. But you're going to get a little indication here to import or install Text Mesh Pro. So make sure when this indication comes up that you click on it, the top one, and import in and say yes. You don't need the essentials below, but you do need that top one. So we can use Text Mesh Pro. And you should have these three things created. A canvas, I can't remember exactly what they call this because I renamed it, but a thing for your canvas here to text on, put your text on, and then an event system. So we're going to go ahead and immediately rename this count text. So you can right click on it and rename it, or you can come up here and rename it. Capital C, capital T. Okay, now we're going to use this to keep score. So when you double click on it, we're going to given some options up here to make this appear the way we want it to. So right now we don't see it too well, but while we're clicked on it, we're going to go up here and click on this little button, which is 2D right here. And that makes it so we can see our score. So when you're doing a graphical user interface, keeping score, putting text up there, most of the time you're going to be going into the 2D mode to get it centered the way you want to, look the way you want to, etc. Make sure you go back and unclick this when you're done though. Okay, so let's go ahead and change this count text some. So the first thing we're going to do, and I don't care what you call it, I called mine score. You could have it count, damage, collectible, whatever you want to call it. But I called mine score. I then went down here and made the font size right here, 54. Again, no right or wrong. But that's what I like in my game. And then I made mine yellow. It all depends on what kind of skybox you have and what kind of scene you have. Yours may want to be white, it may be black. If it's really like bright red or something for your skybox. So again, no right or wrong. Pick the color that's best for you. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to use this rect transform right up here. Make sure you're clicked on the count text for all this. We want to choose this position here. So it's Shift Alt on an IBM, and I think it's Shift Command or Shift Option on a Mac. But when you hold down both buttons and click, you're going to get this. So it moves. Right now, your score. And let me zoom back to my canvas. Would be down here, and we don't want it down there. It's really hard to see the score. So I move mine upper left, top left corner. You could make yours centered if you want. Put it right here, or you could put it to the right. Whatever you think is best for your game. It really doesn't matter what you do with that. Now, the other thing I did is I didn't want mine all the way up here. I wanted mine to come down some. So you can actually type it in here. You could move it to the left, and you could move it down. But I think I just grabbed mine and moved it. Yeah, so I just left-clicked and held it down and moved it to where I wanted to. So mine moved over 25 to the left. We know from the X, right? Going left and then down 14. So positive X, 25, and down 14. Again, there is no right or wrong. Now, one thing is, if you want to use a really big font and all of a sudden it goes haywire, grab this and make it bigger. So you can any font size you want, but if it's too big for this box, you're going to need to grab one of these arrow corners and pull it out. So when I play my game, it's up there. And that looks fine to me. That looks fine. Okay, so now we need to change our script some so that we can make this thing activate. So right now, remember, I'm in 2D. I want to unclick that and then click back on my car. Now, if I'm in 2D, yeah, it's going to look like that, right? Because there is no Z. So make sure you unclick it. Go back there. And let's go see what changes we're making. Luckily, we're going to be using the same script that we have to move our car. So we're moving the same script we have to move our car. So we're just changing that. What you could do, what I did is I came up and saved this immediately. So File, Save As, and I gave it a different name. So I called mine, no I didn't, did I? Let me do that now. So you can save it as a different script. Move car A, or usually, let's see. Yeah, move car A or something. That way you still have your original script if you want to make changes to it. So if we screw up now, you still have your original script. So I would probably save that under a different name and then change that one, like move car A. And then I could save that one. Okay. And let me go back and get my other script here. And these things, as long as they clear. No, I didn't like what I did. Let me go to my project assets. I probably should have created a new script and try to save that, so I'm going to delete this one. So the correct way of doing this would be to create a new script and call it like move car A or something, and then copy and paste. And then go to this script and copy and paste it. That way you still have your original script and you can fool around with this one. All right, let's see what we're doing. First thing we need to do is, since we're using TextMesh Pro, you're going to need to add it. And I've been teaching Unity about 11, 12 years now. It used to be GUI or UI. But if you do not add this line, if you're using TextMesh Pro, in your script for the object that you want to affect whatever you're going to, whatever text you want to come up, is not going to work. So always remember, if you're using TextMesh Pro, you got to tell Unity you're using it. So we're using that line right there. And this is going to be pretty easy. We want to keep score, right? So we're going to keep a private int called count. And we don't want the person to be able to change it, because we want, the only way they're going to change that score is by collecting hitting a token. So we're making it private, and we're going to set it to 0, right? So we should have that much pretty down. That's creating a variable called count, and then we're setting it to 0. Okay, so now we're going to start using our TextMesh Pro. So you're going to create a public game object called WhenTextObject. And remember, that's something we're going to fill. We're going to fill that slot because it's a game object, right? And we're using standard coding syntax. So the first word's not caps, every other word is. Okay? The other thing we're going to do, I forgot to mention it, is we're going to start using that TextMesh Pro. So we're going to take advantage of the TextMesh Pro graphical user interface, the GUI here, which is graphical user interface. So we're adding this line right under the rigid body so we can keep score, and then this line so where we're going to put the score at. Okay? So we're adding those two lines to our variables. And we're going down to void start. If you don't have a void start, just type it in. Remember, when you create a function, void, the name of the function, and double parentheses, and then 2 curly brackets. So that's how we create a function. And I filled these 3 slots. So I originally didn't have a start because I didn't need it for my other game, for what we were doing so far. But I set my count to 0. And I'm going to start using my count text here. And when I hit something, I want to set that object to false. Remember, I'm not destroying it. We could. But in this case, I'm just going to disable it. So once I hit that token or collectible, I want it to disappear, and I don't want to see it anymore, and I want to increase my score. Okay, so we're not doing anything, not touching anything with our movement. So you should have all of that from the previous lesson. But we are going to come down here and create another function. So right after the movement of our vehicle, we're going to set a function called setCountText, which we're using, right? So we said we're going to use it in void start, setCountText, and now we're actually going to define it. And you know what? I may change this to score. Let me save it. Let me play. Yeah, I like that better. Now when I look at that, let's take a look. Yeah. So I could make mine a little bit different. I don't have a skybox in it. For the next lesson, when we start winning, I'll change my skybox. I may change that color. But for right now, it's okay. Okay, so within our function, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. So we're going to take the count text, the graphical interface we're going to use, and we're going to increase that score. So we're going to put up score to start the game off, and then we're going to, every time we hit a token or collectible, we're going to increase it. We're going to increase it. So we want, when we collect or hit that object, we want to start with score, and of course score is 0. We don't have anything. And then when we hit objects, we want to collect it, and string is text. So we're going to add 1 to the string, which is score, each time we hit something. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There you go. Let's make sure you can see the other things we did. In case you have a hard time seeing them, this one here, and then this one here. And then under void start, we have all 3 of these. And then we're coming down for our new function here. Now remember, when you set that function, void, unless you're returning something here. Now one of these we did return something here, so we didn't have void. Void means we don't want something returned in here, but we want to run what's inside this text below. Okay? And let's go down. So now we're going to change our on-trigger inner. So right now we're going to add these 2 lines to the on-trigger inner, which we already have on our car. So we're going to take that count, whatever the count is, when we hit something, we're going to add 1. So if we have nothing, it's going to start with 1. If we have 1, we're going to hit 2. And remember, it's a int, not a float. We don't want to have 1.5 or 2, 2.5. I mean, we don't have half objects. And then we're going to reset that count text. So we already saved it. And let's go to our count text. Okay, so we changed the car. Okay. Okay, so we're setting up to play our game, and we know we have a game object. Okay, so we know we're going to have to fill this slot. Whenever we create a game object in the script, we're going to have an empty slot. So right now, you're going to grab your count text and drag that in. So here, make sure you spelled it right. If you didn't spell it this way, as long as you spell it in the script, whatever way you spelled it, will be okay. And you're going to drag it across in there. So when we start our game, we start off with 0. And I wonder why I'm moving. Let's take a look at that. But when I go and start hitting things, I'm collecting. So, that's all we're going to do for this week. Get your game going. Start adding some tokens. Add some obstacles. They're going to stop you from moving around. Increase the weight of them so you have to go around them. You can't cheat. And start collecting score. There is no right or wrong. As many obstacles as you want. And I think I told you I added a second road. So you could add a couple roads inside here. And have your car zipping around, come across. You could put some cubes here so that you wouldn't fall off on a certain end, and then hide them. Go up there and hide that cube, but not too excited to play a car game where you're not having the chance to fall off the road. I mean, it's like bowling when they put those things in the gutters so you can't have a gutter. But anyway, it's up to you. It's your game. So, and remember, the whole key to this is our prefab. So when you make a change, if you decide, you know what, my prefab doesn't look so good, I want it bigger, I want it spin faster, etc. Everything you do is going to be on the prefab. Everything you do here, every change you make, will then affect every other prefab you have. So you have 20 tokens, it'll change all 20. And then you just go back that way. Anyway, get on your game, make a play and look the way you want to, and then when you're done, publish it to itch.io and submit it to this lesson. And remember, itch.io has got to be public. Very bottom down there. Make sure it's public or I can't see it. You're the only one that can see it. Let me know if you have any questions.